Alright, this is going to be sort of a short-ish range report. I finally said screw it and snuck out to the range. You can hear some shots in the background. I had some stuff I need to set in because I'm always moving optics around, and I thought I'd give you something of an update. Starting out, so the lightweight gun got an upgrade. This is my lightweight AR and got a primary arms PLX C128x24. That's a second focal plate version. I spent quite a lot of time today shooting with this. Sighted it in off the bench and then a bit of hand. Spectacular. I think they did the right thing with this scope. I think it's going to do some damage for reasonable ranges with an AR-15 when you are not doing the DMR stuff to MPBR and just past it. General stuff, it's spectacular, it's lightweight, rifle balance is excellent, no real issues. I've got it sitting in a Sig Alpha2 mount. This is part of my experiment with inexpensive, there's always a mosquito around me. Part of my experiment with inexpensive mounts. It's okay, the clamp is decent, it's adequately stiff. The ring halves do have quite a lot of flex in them, so as I've been messing with this, they're not that stiff, but with this scope, it doesn't matter too much. With scopes where you plan to run the turrets a lot, I don't know if I'd necessarily use this mount. It should work most of the time, but once again, we're playing the odds here. While I was sighting in, I did do kind of a rudimentary check of the tracking. Again, I've tested it in the collimator. Absolutely spot on. It's not designed for dialing, although they do give you an extra cap, but if you want to dial with it, you can. Tracking is absolutely excellent. As an offset optic here, I have the Burris Fastfire 4 sitting in a cheap Weaver mount actually, but the mount doesn't move. And as an offset optic, this is one of my favorites. On a Fastfire 4, you can switch between the reticles. And one of the reticles here is essentially a small dot instead of a smallish horseshoe, which when you go fast looks like big fat ass dot. And for a offset optic, a big fat dot that you sight in at 25 yards, which is what I did here, and then go fast with is wonderful. So I think as is, I might even keep this rifle as is. I think this is an awesome combination. This can be a nice rifle for me to go take to classes where the classes don't require suppressor. I think this should work spectacularly well. Okay, next on my list, I really should be doing a review on this thing, and I will do a more thorough one with screenshots. Notice that I've got the chronograph here. I was looking at some AAC ammo out of this 16-inch barreled gun. I'll talk about that separately. It's not real fast. Out here at this altitude, it's going to be supersonic to maybe 850, 800 yards. I have 77 and 75 grain AAC ammo, but it is decently accurate. A little bit too much velocity spread than I'd want to use for the longer range stuff. But for my general practice with the accurate semi-auto, that's probably good enough. I'll post some pictures and numbers, and you'll see them in the video momentarily. The rifle itself is another experiment per se. It's a newly built lower that has Q's trigger. So this is not my first session with it, but now I've been spending a little more time with it, and I said screw this and just ordered one more trigger. I have another build to do. I think I'm gonna stick with this trigger going forward. It's not cheap. Feeling is excellent. Reset is not super forceful, but very short and reasonably crisp. Nice two-stage design, and having looked a little bit at how they do all the lockup, it is probably the most drop-safe trigger I can think of. I think they did a good job with it. That's going to be my default trigger going forward. On the optics side, I am wrapping up with my review of the Delta Stryker 3.5 to 21 by 44. As it is, honestly, this is a near perfect design, near perfect rifle scope for a precision carbine, precision semi-auto. It'll work fine on bolt guns, and I might use it on a compact one. But in terms of overall package and the way the reticle is set up, it works very, very nicely for an accurate AR-15 or AR-10, something like that. I'll talk a little bit about the reticle. Generally, I'm quite happy with the reticle. I probably would want the main stadia to be a little bit thicker. I'll feed that back to Delta, but as is, I think this is a very capable reticle, and the illumination when needed also helps. On this rifle, for shooting out to 800 yards, the scope is more than enough. But what I really like about it, field of view is good, the scope is user-friendly. Eye box, like on all designs like this, does tighten up a little bit at higher power, but it's not obnoxious. It's very, very usable, a little better than I expected, to be honest with you. I like the capped windage turret. The uncapped elevation turret has a nice feel. I spent some time running it blind. I was able to count clicks. I didn't miss any clicks. It worked beautifully. No real issues there. Overall, excellent scope, good flare control, a good image quality. Tracking elevation is what I mostly have been testing. Has been absolutely spot on. I think Delta did a very, very good job with this design. And last but not least, I am continuing my experiments with the Telson optics, Telson 1200 laser rangefinder. Comparatively simple laser rangefinder. At this range I shoot here all the time. I've long ago figured out where different spots are, so I've measured them with other laser rangefinders and GPS them and all that sort of stuff. The distance measurement is more or less spot on, well within my ability to hold. Simple rangefinder. I really like the way how they did the reticle. I'll show you guys some snapshots shortly. During the day it's just a black reticle, and at night when it's dark it turns red. It automatically senses it. You can adjust brightness. But during the day I really like that the reticle is black with red. Illuminated reticles I have to keep messing with intensity, which is always hidden in the menus. With this one it's just black, so I don't need to worry about being too dim or too bright, something like that. This is a good idea. Another thing I like is that unlike many LRFs out there, it actually comes with a built-in quarter 20 mount. I sold my Leica because it didn't have one, because that turned out to be a huge pain in the ass for me. I like to be able to mount this on a tripod, on an arm coming off the tripod, like I don't know if you guys can see it here. I have a little thing where I normally would mount laser rangefinder and point it at it. I'll show you a picture what it looks like momentarily. And I think that's that. I had a good range day. If I were to try to point out what are my most indispensable tools while I'm at the range, other than guns and scopes, I'd say the FX chronograph has been spectacularly useful. It measures the ballistic coefficients and gives me truly accurate trajectory predictions, and it can also measure the BC and also calculate it into the sea level BC, which is what you usually get from different manufacturers. So wonderful thing. And another one is this Athlon Ares Gen 2 spotting scope with a 22 power reticle fixed power eyepiece that lives in my truck. It's with me at the range all the time. And what is basically happening, I have a ton of laser rangefinders and basic gear. What always goes to the range with me is, whatever I'm testing, this spotter, this laser rangefinder, and a chronograph. These, along with this bag that sometimes I use to support the back of the rifle, sometimes the front, and it also sits nicely on tripod plates. That has become my nearly indispensable range gear.